The General Prologue of Canterbury Tales. When that April with his sore throat, the drought of March had burst to the road, and battered every vein in sweet liquor, of which virtue ingraded is the floor. When Zephyrus eke with his wet breath, inspired hath in every hot and heat, the tender crops and the young sun, hath in the ram his half-course yorn, and small flows making melody, that sleeping all the night with open knee. So pricked him nature in his courage, then long and folk to gone on pilgrimage, and palmerous for to second strandes, the fern flows caught in sundry Londes, and specially from Derbyshire and England to Canterbury they wend, the fully blissful martyr for to sake, that hem hath opened one that they were sick. Befell that in that season on a day, in Southwark at the tabard as I lay, ready to wenden on my pilgrimage, to Canterbury with full devout courage. At night was come into that hostelry, well nigh and 20 in a campaign of sundry folks by adventure full, and fellowship and pilgrims were they all, that toward Canterbury wooden ride, the chambers and the stables weren wide, and well we weren east at best, and shortly one to some was to rest. So had I spoken with him everchone, that I was of her fellowship anon, and made forward early for to rise, to take our way there as you desire. But none the less will I have time and space, ere that I further in this tale pace, may I get it accordant to reason, to tell you all the condition of each of them, so as it seemed me, and which they weren, and of what degree, and in what array that they were in. And at night that all I first began. A night there was, and that a worthy man, that fro the time that he first began, to riding out he loved chivalry, threat and honor, freedom and courtesy. Full worthy was he in his lord's word, and thereto had in ridden no man free. As well in Christendom as in heatheness, and every honoured for his worthiness. At Alessandra he was one, it was one. Full often time he had the board become, above all nations in Persia. In Litho had he raised and he rose. No Christian man so of his degree. In Grenade at the sick had he be, of Algerais and ridden in Balmerin. At Lales was he and at Satel. When they were won and in the great sea, at many a noble army had he be. At normal battles had he been 15, and 14 of our fate at Tremesine. In least thrice, and I slain his foe. This like worthy knight had been also, sometimes with the Lord of Palatine, again another held in Turkey, and evermore he hated a sovereign praise, and thought that he were worthy he was way, and of his sport as meek as is a maid. He never yet no villain ne said, in all his life and no more way. He was a very perfect gentle knight, but for to tellen you of his array, his horse were good, but he was not gay. Of fortune, of fortune, he were a gay pond. I'll be mustered with his habergeon, for he was lately come from his voyage, and went therefore to do his pilgrimage. With him there was his son, a young squire, a loving and lusty bachelor, with locks cruel as they were laid in press. Of 20 years of age he was, I guess. Of his stature he was of even length, and wonderly divine and of great strength. And he had been sometime in chivalry, in Flanders, in Artois, and Picardy, and borne him well as of so little space, in hope to stand in his lady grace, and boarded was he as it were a maid, all full of freshy flowers, white and red, shining he was of floating all the day. He was as fresh as is the month of May. Short was his gown, with sleeve long and wide. Well known his sight on horse and fair ride. He toned songs, make and will indict, just an egg and juice, and well portray and right. So hot he loved that by nightle he slept no more than doth a nightingale. Courteous he was, lonely and serviceable, and carved before his father at the table. A yeoman had he, and servant no more. At that time for him lest the ride so, and he was glad in coat and food of grain. A sheik of peacock covers brightening under his belt, he barefoot thriftily. Well could he dress his tackle yeomanly. His horse dropped not with feathers low, and in his hand he bare a mighty bow. A nut had he, with a brown visage. Of woodcraft well could he all the use. Upon his arm he bare gay braces, and by his side a sword and a buckler, and on that other side gay daisy, harnessed well and sharp as point a spear, a Christopher on his breast of silver sheen, a horn he bare, and bowdrake was of churn. A froster was he, stoutly as I guess. There was also none a prioress, that of her smiling was full sample of coy. Her greatest oath was but by Saint Loy, and she was cleft Madame Eglantine. Full well she sung, and service divine, and tuned in her nose full seemly. In French she spake full fair and fistily, after the school of Stratford 8 bow, For French of praise was to her unknown. Admit well thought was she withheld. She let no morals from her lips fall. Knew what his fingers in his doorstep. Well doth she carry a morsel and well kept, that no drop ne fell upon her breast. In courtesy was set full mutual her lest. Her over lip wiped she so clean, that in her craft other was no furling seam. Of grace one she drogen had her draught, full seemingly after her meat she read, and scarcely she was of great disport, and full pleasant and unwell of port, and plain hair to counterfeit cheers of court, and to be stately of manner, and to be holding down of reverence, but for to speaking of her conscience. She was so charitable and so pious, she would weep if that she sought the most, not entrap if it were dead or bled. Of small handle she that she fed with roasted flesh of milk and was still bread. But sore wept she is own of him were dead, or if men smote if they ayer desmerte, and all was consciences and tendre hearted. Full seemly her wimful pinch was, her nostrils, her eyes grey as glass, her mouth full small, and tertos soft and red. But secretly she had a fair forehead, it was almost a span broad, I trow. For hardly she was not undergrown. Full fetish was her cloth, as I was wore. Of small coral about her arm, she bare a part of beads, quadded all with grain, and there hang a brooch of gold, full sheen, on which there was first right a crowded, and after a more Vincent Omnia.